Stop waiting for life to happen. Sartre explains why purpose is your choice. What if I told you that the idea of waiting for life to hand you purpose is a trap? That the feeling of aimlessness, the frustration of not knowing your why, isn't something that happens to you, but something you've chosen, consciously or not? And more importantly, what if I told you that the power to break free from this waiting game has been in your hands all along? This isn't just motivational fluff. It's one of the most profound ideas from the existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, who argued that meaning isn't something we discover, it's something we create. Let that sink in for a moment. There's no grand, preordained purpose waiting for you out there in the universe. No cosmic blueprint for your life. Instead, Sartre believed that you are the one responsible for giving your life purpose. Now, I know what you might be thinking: if there's no predetermined purpose, doesn't that make life meaningless? And that's where Sartre's philosophy gets really interesting. He argued that the lack of inherent meaning isn't a curse, it's a gift. It means you're free to create your own meaning, to define your own purpose, to take full ownership of your life. But here's the catch: that freedom is terrifying. Sartre called it anguish, the deep, existential anxiety that comes with knowing that your life is entirely up to you. Most of us don't want that kind of responsibility. It's easier to blame our lack of direction on external factors: society, circumstances, other people. It's easier to wait for life to happen to us than to take control and make something of it ourselves. So, let me ask you this: are you waiting for someone or something to tell you what your purpose is? Are you hoping that one day it will all just click and you'll suddenly know what you're meant to do? If so, here's the hard truth: that day isn't coming. There's no guidebook, no roadmap, no divine revelation that will magically hand you a purpose. And the longer you wait, the more you're wasting the only life you have. Sartre's philosophy forces us to confront this head-on. He believed that humans are condemned to be free. It's a strange phrase, he says, isn't it? Condemned to be free. What he meant is that freedom is inescapable. Whether you like it or not, you are free to make choices. Even if you choose to do nothing, that in itself is a choice. And with that freedom comes responsibility, the responsibility to shape your own life.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But here's the thing: most of us don't want that responsibility. We'd rather live in what Sartre called bad faith. This is when we lie to ourselves, pretending we don't have the freedom to choose. We tell ourselves stories like, "I can't pursue my dreams because I have bills to pay." Or, "I can't be happy until someone else validates me." These excuses might feel comforting, but they're just illusions. They're ways of avoiding the uncomfortable truth that our lives are what we make of them. Here's a question to sit with: if you had no one to blame, no circumstances, no people, no excuses, what would you do with your life? In the next part, we'll dive deeper into why people fear this kind of freedom, how societal expectations play a role in keeping us stuck, and why Sartre believed that embracing responsibility is the key to true liberation. The fear of freedom, why responsibility terrifies us, and how to overcome it. Let's face it, freedom sounds amazing in theory, but in practice, it's terrifying. Most of us claim to want freedom, but when confronted with the sheer weight of it, we freeze. Why? Because freedom requires responsibility, and responsibility means there's no one else to blame when things go wrong. Sartre understood this fear better than anyone. He argued that most people don't want to confront their freedom because it forces them to confront themselves. It forces them to admit that their life is a reflection of their choices. And let's be honest, sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow. Think about it: how often do we attribute our unhappiness to external factors? We blame society, our upbringing, our circumstances. We tell ourselves, if only I had more money, or more time, or more time, or more opportunities, then I could live the life I want. But Sartre would say that these are just excuses. Yes, life might throw challenges your way, but you always have a choice in how you respond. Here's a question to consider. Are you truly in control of your life, or are you letting external forces dictate your path? Sartre believed that one of the biggest obstacles to embracing freedom is the pressure to conform. Society has a way of telling us who we should be and what we should want. From the moment we're born, we're handed a script: go to school, get a job, settle down, retire. And if you follow that script, society rewards you with approval and acceptance. But if you deviate, if you dare to write your own script, you risk judgment, rejection, even isolation. This is where the fear of freedom really kicks in. Because choosing your own path means stepping away from the safety of the herd. It means standing alone and saying, "This is who I am. This is what I want," and that kind of vulnerability is scary. But here's the paradox: the more you conform to what society expects, the more disconnected you become from yourself. You might gain approval, but you lose authenticity. You might find comfort, but you lose meaning. Sartre would say that this is a form of self-betrayal, a way of living in bad faith. Living in bad faith is like wearing a mask. You present a version of yourself that aligns with what others expect, but deep down, you know it's not who you really are. And the longer you wear the mask, the harder it becomes to take it off. You start to forget who you are beneath it. So how do we overcome this fear of freedom? How do we stop living for others and start living for ourselves? The first step is to stop running from responsibility. Responsibility isn't a burden, it's a privilege. It's what gives your life meaning. When you take responsibility for your choices, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the creator of your own story. This doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. Sartre himself said that freedom is messy. It's full of uncertainty and doubt. But that's what makes it beautiful. It's in the messiness of freedom that we find our true selves. Another way to embrace freedom is to question the script you've been handed. Who are you living for? Are your goals truly your own, or have they been shaped by societal expectations? If you stripped away the noise of what others think, what would you choose for yourself? Freedom is scary because it forces us to confront these questions. But it's also liberating because it reminds us that we're not here to live someone else's life. We're here to live our life. In the next part, we'll explore how taking responsibility for your freedom can lead to a sense of purpose, why waiting for the right time is an illusion, and how Sartre's philosophy can help you start living with intention today. Why waiting is an illusion, how taking action creates purpose. If there's one dangerous idea that holds us back, it's the belief that we need to wait for the right moment. You've probably told yourself this at some point: I'll start when I feel ready. I'll act when the timing is perfect. I'll find my purpose when life presents it to me. But let me challenge you with this: what if the right time never comes? What if waiting is just a way of avoiding responsibility? Sartre was clear on this point. Life doesn't hand you purpose. There's no divine signal, no perfect moment, no cosmic green light telling you it's time to start living. Purpose isn't something that happens to you, it's something you create. And the only way to create it is to stop waiting and start doing. But here's the problem: we're addicted to waiting. Waiting feels safe. It gives us the illusion of control. We tell ourselves that we're not acting because the circumstances aren't ideal, or because we need more time to prepare. But deep down, waiting is often just fear in disguise. It's the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of making the wrong choice. Here's a tough question for you: what have you been waiting for? And how much time have you already lost because of it? Sartre believed that our existence precedes our essence. What does that mean? It means that we aren't born with a predetermined purpose or identity. We come into this world as blank slates, and it's through our actions, our choices, that we define who we are. You don't find your purpose by thinking about it or waiting for it to appear. You find your purpose by living, by engaging with the world, by making decisions, even imperfect ones. Think of it this way: purpose isn't a destination. It's a process. It's something you build over time, brick by brick, through the actions you take every day. And the beauty of this process is that you don't have to know exactly where you're going. You just have to start. But here's where most of us get stuck. We want guarantees. We want to know that the path we choose is the right one, that our efforts will pay off, that we won't fail. Sartre would argue that this desire for certainty is another form of bad faith. Life doesn't come with guarantees. Freedom means embracing uncertainty, taking risks, and accepting that failure is part of the journey. So, how do you break free from the illusion of waiting? How do you start creating purpose instead of hoping it will find you? First, stop trying to figure everything out before you begin. Perfection is a myth. The conditions will never be ideal. You don't need to have all the answers before you take the first step. As Sartre would say, it's through action that meaning emerges. The more you do, the clearer your path becomes. Next, take small, deliberate actions every day. Purpose doesn't suddenly appear in a grand moment of clarity. It's built through the small, consistent choices you make. Maybe that means starting a project you've been putting off, reaching out to someone who inspires you, or simply committing to learning something new. Each action, no matter how small, is a step toward defining who you are. And finally, let go of the fear of making the wrong choice. There's no right path in life, only the path you choose. Sartre believed that what matters isn't the choice itself, but the meaning you give to it. Even if you fail, even if you change directions, you're still moving forward. You're still creating. Here's something to reflect on: if you knew there were no guarantees, no perfect moment, no predetermined purpose, what would you do today? In the next part, we'll explore how to live with intention, why authenticity is the ultimate form of freedom, and how Sartre's philosophy can help you stop drifting through life and start taking ownership of your existence. Living with intention: how authenticity unlocks true freedom. The final, and perhaps most profound, piece of Sartre's philosophy is this: true freedom is found in living authentically. But what does it mean to live authentically? And why does authenticity feel so elusive in a world where we're constantly told who we should be, what we should want, and how we should live? For Sartre, authenticity begins with a simple but radical truth: you are the sole author of your life. No one else can define your purpose, your identity, or your values. Living authentically means taking full ownership of that truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It means rejecting the scripts handed to you by society, family, or tradition, and instead writing your own. But here's the challenge: living authentically requires courage. It's much easier to live in bad faith, to play the roles that others expect of you, to follow the paths that feel safe and familiar. When you live in bad faith, you avoid the discomfort of freedom by pretending that your choices aren't really your own. You blame circumstances, or other people, or fate. You tell yourself, this is just the way things are. But deep down, you know it's a lie. Here's a question that cuts to the heart of the matter: are you living the life you truly want, or the life you think you're supposed to want? When you live authentically, you stop trying to meet other people's expectations. You stop chasing external validation. Instead, you start aligning your actions with your values, your passions, and your vision for your life. This alignment is where true freedom lies. It's not about doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That's just chaos. True freedom is about living in a way that feels deeply true to who you are. But authenticity isn't something you achieve once and for all. It's a practice, a daily commitment. Every decision you make is an opportunity to choose authenticity or bad faith. Will you act out of fear, conformity, and self-doubt? Or will you act out of courage, integrity, and self-awareness? This is where intention comes in. Sartre believed that our actions define us, not our thoughts, not our feelings, but our actions. Living with intention means being deliberate about the choices you make. It means asking yourself, does this decision reflect who I want to be? Does it align with the purpose I'm creating for myself? And let's be clear, this isn't easy. Living authentically often means going against the grain. It means disappointing people who expect you to follow their script. It means facing the uncertainty of carving your own path. But the alternative, living a life that isn't truly yours, is far worse. Here's another question to consider. If you stripped away all the external pressures and expectations, who would you be? What kind of life would you create? The beauty of Sartre's philosophy is that it doesn't give you answers. It doesn't tell you what your purpose should be or how you should live. Instead, it gives you the tools to discover those answers for yourself. It reminds you that you have the freedom and the responsibility to create your own meaning. So, how do you start living with intention and authenticity today? First, take a hard look at your life. Where are you living in bad faith? Where are you pretending that you don't have a choice? Be honest with yourself, even if it's uncomfortable. Next, start small. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Begin by making one decision that feels true to you, even if it's scary. Maybe it's pursuing a passion you've been neglecting. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who's been holding you back. Whatever it is, let it be a step toward reclaiming your freedom. Finally, accept that authenticity is a journey, not a destination. You will make mistakes, you will face doubt, but every time you choose to act with intention, you're strengthening your commitment to living authentically. So, let me leave you with this: life isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. The meaning you're searching for, the purpose you're waiting for, it's not out there. It's within you, waiting to be shaped by your choices. Stop waiting for life to happen. Start taking responsibility for your freedom. Live with intention. And remember, the only person who can define your purpose is you. Thank you for watching. And let me ask you one final question. If you stopped waiting, stopped hesitating, and started living authentically, what kind of person could you become?